Alrighty, we are back. Welcome to Module 4 of the ZeroPoint X Spaces. This is going to be probably the most laid back one yet. Totally off the cuff. I was initially going to just kind of chill and listen today, but taking the reins with Asylum, and we're going to talk some Dero, maybe ask some difficult questions. Anybody who wants to speak, request, and we'll just play it by ear. I didn't have any topics immediately to talk about. I know in the crypto space, LBRY Inc. is at its last days, and that may have an impact on the space as a whole. Maybe we can discuss if they would have been able to build on Dero, how that could have affected their outcomes a little bit, just as a starting place. So Library, the decentralized video platform, better known as Odyssey, called it quits. And I was just wondering, maybe their venture could have went different had it been built on Dero, or maybe they still have the opportunity to try that on Dero.
So my opinion on something like Library, there was another one, what was it, Tube or something like that? It can pretty much be built on almost any platform. So maybe the model that they were using probably wasn't optimal. A lot of people tried to take like current things that already exist and kind of force them onto the blockchain instead of designing them for the blockchain. And maybe it just wasn't smooth enough for that. But if they'd want to give it another try at Dero, it's a lot faster block times, so people can browse quicker and things of that nature. I really stopped following Library years ago, so I'm really not sure where they left off. Were they still basically just a streaming platform and data repository?
I'm pretty sure they were using a token model for credit for their economic setup there. But I think a big problem with those kinds of platforms, if you're trying to build a censorship-resistant media platform, then you should probably give your users some privacy. That's kind of the step number one of achieving their stated goals.
Yeah, and once you have a centralized platform like that too, you can't. If you're going to have something truly censorship resistant and proof, then you're going to have a lot of problems legally if you have it centralized like that too. So I think another problem is economically with things like that is when you start using tokens and people have to pay for the tokens and then use the tokens to like view videos or however they were using it. It's a lot easier to have a subscription-based model and things like that. People don't like microtransactions when it comes to things like Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, social media in general. Like a microtransaction model, it works theoretically, but people don't really like to use that unless if you can incorporate proof of work into it, where when you're using it, you're providing proof of work to the network, you're rewarded with said credits, and then you could use those credits. I could see something like that maybe taking off. But having to go and buy a set of tokens every time you want to go watch YouTube is kind of a hassle. Maybe people don't have a lot of money, just buy a large amount at once and then do that. So just in my personal opinion, I think subscription models are better for stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree there. And the microtransaction model also encourages, like you said, people to buy more at once, which is disincentivizes people to spend their money on it, because you can't see that far into your future to justify buying batches of tokens on a million different platforms just to get your news,
And if the token isn't stable in price too, then you're also talking about a fluctuating cost in microtransactions, which is also kind of a pain. Like you buy a bunch of them and then they get cut into half. And yeah, maybe you were planning on using them on the platform and they are stable in that manner, but at the same time, maybe you're done with that platform, and now you have like, you know, a stack of, you're just holding a bag at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also dipping into the security there too, which, you know, even it's not even necessary for the product. So I mean, you could offer the same kind of service with a subscription using an L1 token. You don't need to do the whole representative value thing and mess around with SEC rules.
Yeah, you're kind of you're basically just creating a middleman. You know, like instead of purchasing the subscription with ETH, you can buy our token and then purchase the subscription. It's pointless.
I guess it a little bit of clarity. I just used it because YouTube had become such a bore with the censorship that was happening in every corner. I like to dive down rabbit holes, so that was easy for me to fall out of and fall right into Odyssey. But
actually, if I could ask before we move on in that case, since you were actually a user of the platform, what do you think they could have benefited from using a different platform like Zero? Like, what could the benefit have been?
The censorship resistance would have been number one. But like you said, that runs into a lot of muddy waters in and of itself when you centralize it in such a way that they did. Just not being able to have tracking of everybody that was following along or watching or participating probably would have helped them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like if every video that you watch isn't on the blockchain, that might help a lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, you know, permanent records of your media consumption is probably a really bad idea to begin with.
Especially if you ever worked with some of the people I worked with years and years ago, where they just send you a link, you know, and it's the hypertext is something different than what it actually is.
Yeah, and as soon as you click that link, a record is permanently ingrained into a blockchain for the whole world to see that you saw something, you know?
Yeah.
And once
this gets
find out, it'll be Rick Rolls, right?
Right? This guy really likes Rick Astley.
All right. Well, thank you for that bit of clarity there. I always enjoy to hear the technical ins and outs. But yeah, that was, like I said, that was my only topic that I had initially on hand. So,
well, we do have nonsensus coming up while we're still in the beginning here. Just want to remind everybody, we will not be doing a module next Saturday. To give people the freedom to travel and everything that they need to get to the event. And during the event, we're going to have another one on, I think it's Wednesday, November 1st. We'll just do that live, probably around dinner time in Phoenix. So probably around 6 p.m. or so Phoenix time. We'll definitely send out an invite so everybody can join in on that as well. Not sure if we're actually going to be able to do spaces though. So if that is the case, then we'll just let everybody know when we have the Spotify and the YouTube up so they can listen that way, but we'll just record it live. And then the following Saturday, we'll not have another module that Saturday either because we had just done one at Nonsensus, and we'll pick up the Saturday after. So that's the current schedule. We're going to have a little bit of a hiatus there because of the event.
That'll give some people some time to mull over all the things that were talked about too. So.
For sure.
Excellent. And we got a couple more people coming in. Ahmed B. Glad to see you here. Good to say thanks in person. I really appreciate the gift box, the Zero gift box. Going to be using a lot of the stickers and decals on my trip out to Phoenix, so super prepared and excited for that.
I just add on to that. Ahmed sells Zero merch gift boxes through a Dero service that's plugged into a Discord that Secret built, which is pretty cool. So you can buy your stickers and pens and stuff with Dero privately and just deal with the sale with the vendor directly. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really nice to explain that to my brother. Actually was here with me when I received the package, and he said, where did you get that? I said, this was all on chain, man. This was just me and the guy that sent it. There was no middleman. It felt great. So that's definitely a future that I think all of us will be enjoying in the near future, sooner than we would think with the way things are going.
But then how's Amazon going to know what you like?
Love the clown horn. I hope you have extras.
I got two. I got one for Roman and I got one for speakers. So I'm gonna see if I can attach one to the podium. So anyone speaking, if they ever feel the need to use it, feel free.
Yeah, my entire presentation will be horn honking, probably.
Symphony of clown horns.
Guys, good evening. I was wondering if maybe in this episode you can talk a bit more about nonsensus for those of us who can be there, like to have some live talk about it, how it's gonna be organized, and I don't know, just if you're gonna live stream it, or there will be select videos of select talks, and so on and so forth, just to have an idea of what we can expect after it happens, if we can check the talks, watch them, and so on.
Yeah, sure. So during the event, it was pretty much unanimous amongst the speakers. Not many people wanted to be videotaped while they gave their presentations. But everybody has slideshows that they'll be presenting and giving their talks. We're not going to have any live streaming, but what we are going to do is when the event's done, we're going to be releasing videos and batches of the talks and of highlights. Obviously, we're going to have the ZeroPoint module streamed, available for streaming as soon as that's done. The event itself is pretty much, there's going to be two rooms. There's a main room where people will be giving their talks for 2 days. We have a lot of people speaking, so we're pretty jam-packed as far as the schedule goes. Some people are first-time speakers, so we're not sure if we're going to actually, like, the amount of time everyone has allotted is basically an hour. Some people feel they might not be able to fill it. Some people feel they might go over. So we're just kind of gonna kind of wing it. But that's going to be the main room, and we basically have 2 days straight of talks there. The second room is a workshop room, and it's a classroom setup where people will be basically just kind of teaching classes, or I have a brainstorming session one. Those aren't really going to be recorded unless the people who are doing those workshops record them themselves and give out that information later. But some of that information I'm sure will be available later, shared through social media. We have a pretty large food service budget that we're going through. So for everybody who's going, there's basically going to be tons of free food all the time. There's going to be some free drinks and stuff available. And the third day is mostly going to be, it's kind of like a restaurant within the venue that's going to be sectioned off just for us. There's going to be food and snacks and things like that, and kind of a networking thing. We'll probably be doing a few giveaways there as well. Very laid back, not a huge event with a ton of people, but there's going to be a lot of good information coming out of it. We're going to get a lot of content that we're going to be sharing on the Vague Nonsense YouTube channel. We'll probably share some of it through the official Zero YouTube channel as well. So basically, after Nonsensus, we're just going to end up with a ton of content that we're going to be sharing with everybody. But unfortunately, while the event's going on, there's not going to be much for people to see in the outside world via the web.
Thank you. That's interesting. No, I was curious, in fact, about the possible workshops. So, from what I understand, you will do some workshops with developers, right? And will these just be brainstorm? Like, it won't be some sort of hackathon, just basically educating others on Zero, if I understand it correct.
Yeah, we did want to do a hackathon, but I mean, for one, the turnout really isn't really huge, so I'm not sure how many developers we even have coming out. And then there was an idea, like, you know, we've had the dark hackathons online in the past, and they were great. We got good stuff out of it, but there wasn't as much participation. I would say that we thought we would have. So part of the reason why I'm doing a brainstorming workshop is to revisit on a better way to do that, and how we can attract more people to develop on Zero. And also, if anybody has any other ideas for dark, or if we can do something different than dark. So this year, no hackathon. Maybe next year.
The first nonsensus event is kind of playing out to be more of like a ticketed focus group. So the core community members that are involved out there are all coming together. And, you know, most events people go to, they want to see flashy booths, they want to see a ton of merch, they want to hear all these financial messages and preaching, and it's kind of dumb. You can go on Twitter and you can see that in 2 seconds. Like, it's paying thousands of dollars to fly across the world and get that is ridiculous. So what we're focusing on is everybody meeting and coordinating with humans for the first time on something that actually matters. So that's what we're happy to see happening.
Yeah, that's priceless.
Yeah, the focus the focus is definitely on people.
Yeah, it gives the anonymity space a chance to show that it isn't just fox masks and hackers and scammers. You know, we're everyday people just like everybody else that just seeks a little more freedom.
Well, I love the idea. It's actually I think from a PR point of view, it's going to be impactful, especially if there are some videos or some material content that is generated from it, even educational and so on, exactly for this reason. So people see that privacy enthusiasts are just ordinary people. And unfortunately, I can't be there this time because it's in the United States, but I will probably be there if next year, for example, it's done in Europe. I would love to participate in an event like this, where these kind of minds come together to discuss these topics. So thank you. Yeah, it sounds very interesting.
And in the future, let's say if it's not in Europe or something like that, we can try to figure out a way to accommodate you to speak, because just from my personal opinion, I enjoy a lot of the topics that you talk about and what you bring to the table. So maybe we can work that out on the next one, even if we don't do it in Europe.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would love to participate in the next one, because this one was a bit on too short a notice for me to arrange everything, so I couldn't make it.
Oh yeah, of course. Understood. All right, I added a few other speakers. We got Chekapoo. I'm not sure how you say your name, to be honest with you. I just read it all the time. Little Duck's been added. Quest for Crypto as well. Secret Name's raising his hand. No surprise there. What do you got, man?
I just really, really stoked for nonsensus, and I wanted to just address my crypto enthusiast friend over here at Tech Weeks. Yeah, I think that it's really cool that these guys are all going to get together, and there's going to be a lot of conversation that we're going to be having about Zero, and so it's really heartbreaking that not everybody can be there. But I think that, you know, everybody who's going to be involved with the event is going to want to reach out and is going to be able to communicate the insights that they might have, or they might be reaching out for feedback. It's not like we just stopped existing. It's just like, it's going to just be like really high def for a while.
I don't know if any of you guys had checked X in the past maybe half hour. I don't know, maybe it was more than that by now, but there is a beautiful UI UX that Joy Raptor has been working on. I know you guys, some of you have seen it. I hope that comes to fruition. That looks so smexy. Wish he was here to tell him in person. That's the sleekness that Dero's bringing out of people here.
Yeah, I saw that. Are those just mock-ups, or is it an actual app he's working on, Wallet? Is he collaborating with someone?
He's working on designing the skin in total complete front end in Figma. So if somebody were to take this on, they would have to deal with the Zero wallet code and Figma through WebAssembly. So if that's something that anybody out there is interested in taking on.
So yeah, for now it's just a mock-up. There was a talk, I want to say 2 weeks ago, in the Zero Discord, where there were a few developers that were saying, "Hey, if somebody can get me a mock-up, then I can start working on something." So I wouldn't be surprised if a few people haven't reached out to him already to get something rolling on that.
That's exciting. That's going to be really nice. Yeah, I think that's all that I had.
Yeah, he had some really cool skins. Hey guys,
Hey, what's up?
I actually joined when you guys were talking about Ahmed's little marketplace in the secret Discord server. And originally, when Ahmed started doing this, the way he set it up is we would send him a message directly through the messaging function in the wallet with our address and everything like that. And so I got my box, but now it's really interesting how it's set up. And as I understand it, it's using integrated addresses. And I just wonder a little bit more about that. How does it work exactly? If someone wants to explain that, maybe Secret.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that Zero does is it allows you to send transaction messages. They're like transaction comments in a transaction, and you can build a Zero address that has that pre-programmed into the address, so that when you purchase it, when you use that in your wallet, it automatically puts in things like port and the amount and like the transaction comment. So what the secret Discord server does is allows you to encode a Zero address, a Zero integrated address, so that when you use that in your wallet, it sends all the details to Ahmed in his wallet. So that's what an integrated address does. Is it basically just is a bunch of information that you can encode together. And so when like a human eyes looks at it, it's just a Zero address. But when Zero reads it, it's ciphertext that it parses and is able to encode it in the transaction. So yeah, that's how the secret Discord server show and tells that for other people, is that you can create very specific addresses to have very specific results occur.
So in this case, is it going to have to be a new integrated address for each transaction, or is it just like one general? How does that work exactly?
So your typical Zero address is 66 characters. So your base address is what's used for the integrated address. What's added onto that is just a bunch of like added characters. And so if the message is exactly the same, you can use the same address over and over again. You can also do some other cool stuff like putting expiration on your addresses if you want to, so they're no longer valid. That's kind of like an interesting little tidbit. But ultimately, you could use the same address over and over and over again if you wanted to, given that you wanted that result or that message or that amount to be sent to somebody.
Okay, right. But when you're exchange, so let's say, okay, I want to sell a product, and so if someone wants to buy my product, I set a price on it, and I put up an integrated address, and so they type that in on their CLI or whatever, and it's set. It like already has the amount set and a little message, and so then if they decide to pay that, is it easy for them to also send a message so that I know like exactly who it is that's like paying? Or, how does that work exactly?
That's another great question. So because Zero is a rewrite of the CryptoNote protocol, that's where it gets a lot of its structure, is that in the original, when someone paid you, you didn't know who it was. That was like a feature of how that worked. What Captain did with Zero is he implemented a reply back. So you can encode into your Zero address whether or not you disclose your reply address. So what the secret Discord server does to kind of make this easy is that we have that feature turned on so that when someone builds an integrated address in the secret Discord server, they use the command called encode, because it's like the technical term for it. When you encode an address, it has the reply back feature so that when that user uses that transaction, it exposes the address to the other party so that if you wanted to contact them, you could.
It helps to add on to that. It doesn't take the user's address and give it to them.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, it does ask you that. That's like and it's not by default. By default, your Zero doesn't share your address with anybody. But when you use an integrated address, you can make true the argument that you are giving over a reply address when you complete the transaction. And so when you put it in your wallet, it says, hey, this transaction's asking you to send back something. Just so you know, that's probably your address. And so you have the opportunity to say yes or no. So that's a good point. Thanks, Asylum.
This is really useful, especially on an anonymous blockchain with private assets, because some functions that a vendor and a customer, for example, would like to occur require the vendor to know the customer's address so that they can send them stuff back or messages or whatever. So it's really handy to be able to toggle that.
Yeah, and to just turn it on. Like for instance, I shipped a Zero drive recently for a user in the secret Discord server. And I was able to send them in the wallet, I was able to send them the tracking number, and I was able to also send them the passphrase for their encrypted drive. So I know for a fact that no one on planet Earth knows that code other than this wallet and that wallet, because I put that there. And so that's been really messed with my head, is that like we can pass messages between parties, even for physical, tangible objects, wherewith we don't trust the very deliverers of the product with the information. That was really cool.
And I also just want to add to some people who might not understand Zero as much as others in this. Also, somebody having your address and knowing that address is yours does not help them know how many coins you have. I know a lot of people would be like, well, how's that private if that person knows my address now? Well, everything's still encrypted on the blockchain. I just wanted to to add that little bit of information too.
Oh yeah, that's so critical.
And just one quick thing that I just, at which point in this process does the vendor get the address of the buyer to send what address, like the physical, geo address to send the product to? At which point in the process?
So when the user is building the integrated address in the Discord server, I've made it almost just like as if you were building the code, the command to make your wallet do this. Basically, you put the address for which you want the Dero to go to. You can also do tokens, but I'm not going to get into that yet. So you put the address of where you want the funds to go to. You put the amount in atomic units. Just in case anyone doesn't know, Dero goes to the 5th decimal place. And so a lot of the things I do in the Discord server, the secret Discord server, is just to kind of teach some of the basic principles. Like one of them is the Dero goes to the 5th decimal place. Monero goes to the 12th BT dubs. And I think Ethereum goes to the 18th. So it's kind of excessive in my opinion. Anyway, so when you go in and encode this address, it asks you to put in a comment. In that comment, you would comment your address. And so when you put that in, it encodes it into the Dero address, and when they pay it, it's writing, when they use that, it automatically fills in the transaction comment in the transaction for you, which is your address. And so when you pay it, obviously you wouldn't want to disclose these addresses to other people. You wouldn't want to let people gain access to these encoded Dero addresses. So you'd want to make sure that they were private. And so there's some concession that has to be made, seeing as that they're being made in a Discord server. But typically, given that you are a competent person who's going to take the time to DYOR, you would be able to make these integrated addresses. The Discord server just is like a convenient, like, show and tell.
Yeah, but so yeah, go ahead.
Little Doug, I think I understand your question. So basically, you have the ability to actually reply with messages in Dero transactions themselves, and those messages are end-to-end encrypted, just like the regular transactions. So you can put a physical address in that same message that he's talking about. Because I think Secret, what he was getting at is, how does the vendor get the address from the customer, how to sell product to in the physical world?
Oh yeah, I'm like so focused on the front end of this, not on the back end of this. Yeah, so then you have the customer's address in your wallet. You just go look in your transaction history and it's right there.
Yeah, and that's sent encrypted through the blockchain, end-to-end encryption.
So that I now have their address in my wallet, and as long as I have good operational security, which I should if I'm taking self-custody of a privacy coin, then I can let my customer know that I have the drop point for the gift box, and I'll go ahead and ship on that. And so when I got that, I can send to them a shipping by way of the same address that's sent to me. And then that way we can continue the dialogue. So, and that you can do that on chain on Dero. There's no other cryptocurrency that can do that. It's act as a communication platform for your business.
It should really elaborate on that this is all native to the blockchain and the Dero wallet. This is not, you don't need third-party software to do anything.
Yeah, you don't need the secret Discord server. You don't need me at all. I would say you need Dero. When you're using Dero, it has with it this stuff by default, like, for instance, being able to have transaction comments that are encrypted and then passed to, whoever you're sending this to. That's like crazy beneficial in that if you're running a business and you want to guarantee your customer that the information that's guaranteed, cryptographically guaranteed, that the information that I've shared between me and you is between me and you. I don't think there's another that's native.
Yeah, and this can be done with any kind of front end. Like imagine that you're at the grocery store at a point of sale at the checkout, and they're scanning your item, and then they can literally like give you an integrated address to scan with a QR code with your phone, and you can scan and it populate the amount and all the and the order number and all the receipt details in your wallet for you to approve and pay. Like all this stuff is the same functions. It's just how it's used and how it's implemented for people.
I kind of have one last question on this topic, and I don't want to get too crazy or extreme on this path. If anyone wants to take it on a different path, that's fine. But what my question is about verifying the vendor, because I know we have a lot of scammers and stuff, especially on Discord and other places. And so in some instances, it seems like someone could pretend to be a certain vendor, and then they could like somehow put this integrated address out, and they start getting money and also personal information of people who are trying to do this. What possible ways would we have of verifying vendors?
Oh, so this is actually, I want to touch on this. So an integrated address is decodable. It's the first thing. So you can verify the address that you're interacting with. And second, when you give over your address in a transaction comment, or you're using a service or some kind of software to build that into an integrated address, if someone just gave you a random integrated address on one level, like why are you ultimately trusting it unless you can verify it, right? And the wallet does that. It'll parse and read what the transaction is doing before. And so if you're competent enough to put a yes or a no on a transaction, maybe I'm being too like condescending and you're being the devil's advocate. But I hope I have the right feel.
I mean, you not paying attention would be the equivalent of pulling your wallet out and swiping your credit card on some guy on the street. Like, why would you do that?
And there's also so it from a different perspective. So let's say you wanted to verify that this wallet is owned by the person who says it is, right? So there's human readable addresses also. And human readable addresses can only be owned by the wallet that created that address. So I guess you could also just theoretically just cross-reference the human readable address of a vendor with the wallet address to say, hey, this is the correct human readable address that I know belongs to this vendor, that's verified by this vendor. So this is in fact who I think I'm dealing with.
And that would be done because the public agrees in relationship to a vendor who has a public-facing service that this human readable name is the official one,
Yeah, or something like a GPG signed, or this is my human readable address, or there's other ways to verify things off chain to ensure that what you're dealing with on chain is what you think you're interacting with as well.
Now, to clarify for me, is the human readable address the same thing as the name in your wallet? Is that what the smart?
Yeah, like how Asylum has his addresses, capital A Asylum. That's the human readable address.
Yeah, and if you all know that, and you're going around interacting with Asylum, a vendor on the internet, with integrated addresses, you have the tools available to verify that you're actually interacting with me.
Because if it's not spelled the exact same way, then it's not the same address, right? It has to have the same. Go ahead.
One of the cool things that we can do with the human readable addresses is we can actually look them up. It's so freaking cool. And I love looking them up. It's because like you can actually look up Captain and it actually is Captain's address. So like you could technically talk to Captain and maybe you could commute. Maybe all those people who are saying when they could just like send them a Dero message and be like, yo, bro, what's good, Captain?
That's a good point.
So, but like, I think I really like Little Duck's point in that, like, you know, if some of the newfangled things that Dero can do, like what are we already starting to try and educate people on regarding like address safety, you know, don't interact with addresses from people you don't know, you know, don't interact with any information from people you don't trust. I know we work with trustlessness and permissionlessness as a you know, cryptocurrency communication platform, but doesn't mean you should, you know, just assume that because, hey, they use Dero, I can trust them.
Yeah. You know, I don't really want to roll the conversation back at all, but you were speaking about educating people on some of these things. And one of the things that just kind of blows my mind, I see there's blockchains that say, oh, we have messaging or private messaging, but it's not actually built into the blockchain. There's other you know, DNS. I mean, essentially the human readable addresses is a rudimentary DNS system. It's just instead of an IP to a name, it's an address to a name. There's other projects that are boasting about, you know, the fact they could, human readable addresses are coming. And it's like on Dero, you could literally send a message to Captain, an encrypted message to Captain, the word, and get a reply back. And to me, it's just, I don't think a lot of people realize that capability is really there yet, because like we've talked before, the user interfaces really need to be more user friendly. But yeah, the fact that you can actually just send a message to a nickname essentially, and the message is encrypted, is beyond the capabilities of pretty much anything I've seen out there, and nobody seems to care. I don't understand why people get excited about some of these other chains that are kind of duct taping these types of technologies together and they don't really work. And it's actually something that's already on the protocol level in Dero.
Well,
UI people, yeah, people got to remember that on the UI front, these things have to be built for the first time here. It's not like there's a ton of examples out there to draw from. There's no standard in the industry for doing these kinds of things because they don't exist anywhere else. So it may seem like it takes some time, but you know, when you're first confronted with all these particulars and possibilities, you do kind of just sit there for 6 months pondering about all the infinite things you could be doing with them. So it does take time to get things to front end and in users' heads, and that's one of the main reasons why, especially when things are being pioneered.
It kind of reminds me of back in the day when people were doing simple things with Bitcoin, where if you sent Bitcoin to an address, it would like turn a lamp on and on that was on a webcam type thing. You know, yeah, it was something that wasn't that impressive at the time, but if you think of the technology behind it that went into all that and the possibilities, it was still pretty cool. I mean, at least for nerds, it was still pretty cool that it was possible.
I think in Dero, I think I'm one of the least tech savvy people in Dero users. And it took me like 1 year, you know, to get to the point where I could use the DEX, for example. But also Dero is the first chain ever for which I've been running a node from day one. So I also know most of these features, but to be honest, for example, I still haven't registered the name for myself because I don't know. It's like I watched a few videos on how to do it from Dero Inmate, I think, the guy who does those very good videos where he explains everything. But I still couldn't wrap my head around it. So I think with better UI people can understand these, like people like me, because I love the technology. It inspires me so much, so I sticked around, even though I couldn't get how to use half of it. It's just, I was just hanging around reading and trying to, to fill in the blanks with what I could, and get to learn to how to use the wallet, and then the CLI wallet, and then the decks, and then, moving around the Discord. But I think for other people too, it's going to be pretty much like this, at least 1 year, if it took me this long, if they are normal users. And with better UI, I think we'll see a big wave because that accessibility will bring a lot more users.
Oh man,
Yeah, and
I want to argue. I want to debate.
okay, well, before you do that, let me just say one thing. So the ability to register your address in an easy way from the wallet is something that's being built into the GUI. So Ngram is planning on building that into it. I'm not sure which release it's going to be in, but that is something that's definitely going to be worked on. But the thing is after that hurdle is leapt, and it becomes easier for people to do that, then yeah, it'll be as simple as, just opening up an application that you can just double click, open up, click the button to start your own node if you want, to connect to your own node if you want, and you already have the Netrunner ability to open up the node by double clicking, and then just type in what name you want, and it'll check, see if it's registered for it for you. So I mean, these types of things will come, but the underlying technology that's there, though, that's not necessarily user-friendly. It is still, for more tech-savvy people, relatively easy to use. And the capabilities are just, I think we've only been scratching the surface with a lot of the projects that have been coming out. And I'll let you rant now.
Well, I think that having a really sexy UI would be really, really nice. Don't get me wrong. And I think we all can agree that having something easy to be like, yo, mom, this is what's up. Check it out. Yeah, I would love to be able to. I don't want to teach her how to throw down on Termux and all that stuff. For ease, yeah, a sexy UI would be awesome. However, this is where I want to make my debate point. I think that's one of the things that's of intrinsic value to Zero is that it's hard, actually. It does a really interesting thing to users once they start interacting with Zero at a command line interface level. I've watched it for years. As soon as users start to explore in a confident way one little part of the terminal, it unlocks people. I don't know what it is. And so don't get me wrong. I think a real sexy UI would be really nice for my mom and my brother. That'd be super rad. But I also strongly encourage people, and I hope other people can echo with me on this, strongly encourage that you learn how to get as close to the code as possible when interacting with, something as serious as your coins. And the best way of doing that is to go to the source and build and run and execute the program and get your seed for you. And I don't know, I just get so stoked about that, man. I get so stoked.
Yeah, I mean, we over the last year or so, we've watched people come into this space and have their minds entirely rewired to fit how things work fundamentally, because things weren't sexy and hidden behind interfaces yet.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because it's the same experience I had. Zero changed me in a way as a user, made me much more tech savvy or aware of certain things that I couldn't care less about earlier before discovering Zero. But this barrier is also when, for example, I want to tip a friend and send them a few Zeros. And right now it's very difficult because then they have to sync their node and then they have to do everything. So that's where I see the friction and why, I can handle it because, I am I'm very stubborn. If I want to do something, I find a way. But at the same time, if I'm in the middle of a conversation, and I have been in many conversations with friends, and other people about Dero, and at some point they tell me, send me some Dero and tell me the wallet, and that's where it's like you hit a barrier there, an obstacle that unfortunately you can't surmount it there and there in the moment, because we need a bit slightly, maybe not better UI, but even like the G45 is doing, and of course then later even a better UI can help even more.
I think this kind of has.
And if I could play, if I could just play right down the middle of this road, I just want to take it from the perspective that every groundbreaking technology at some point was hard to use, and that's really my only point. It's just at some point, it was not easy to just, you didn't just open up your phone, open up an app and be like, oh, cool. I now have the latest and greatest technology on the planet. Like, that's just not how technology evolves in the world. But I see both sides of this argument 100%, but that's just kind of my right down the middle response to it.
I agree with that 100%. But also what I like about what Secret is saying is it kind of matches my current perspective, where for a lot of my life, I just put trust into people like, okay, they figured it out. They studied more about it. They know what's going on, so I'm going to trust them. But then at a certain point, I realized, well, with that perspective, I've gotten fooled a lot. And so I respect what Secret is saying, is because if you don't put trust into someone else, pawn the trust off for them to like figure it out for you, then you have to figure it out for yourself, and you're going to understand more, and you're not going to get fooled as much. And
absolutely. And that point, my friend, is like, when we're dealing with a world where literal robots are being advertised on the very platform that we're talking on from the dude who owns this platform, and there are large language models that can quickly automate a lot of the things that you and I do as a form of income, you gotta be figuring out how to level up quickly. And I've never seen anything do it faster, in my opinion, than the Dero CLI wallet. It is mind-boggling. As soon as people figure out how to hit 4 and register.
And just to speak to the conversation topic, if you are in the tech world, you are doing an extreme disservice to yourself to not learn the nuts and bolts of CLI. And if you're not in the tech world and privacy is still your forte, find your tech guy. I know you got one. I'm that one for my family. Show them Dero. They will thank you. They will show you how to do it. You got to learn this stuff and get into it while it's in this stage. It will pay off.
Well, yeah, it's time too, right? Like, do it now while it's advantageous to have that knowledge before everything gets hidden behind 1,000 layers of UI. And that becomes too much.
Exactly, because then how do you navigate these massive, elegant constructions because it's a lot of code to make it simple and easy for you. You know what I'm saying?
In every evolution of that kind of stuff, just like Little Duck was saying, increases the amount of trust you're putting in more and more and more people. More and more people are getting in between you and the blockchain the further you go down that development road, which just it leads to a scenario like when you look at the Bitcoin world right now, you have like 99% of the Bitcoin world is people that don't know how Bitcoin works, and all they think about is the money. So this is like a massive cultural problem that isn't going to get it's not going to get confronted until more people start recognizing the value of getting closer to the code themselves.
Oh man, you just touched the Bitcoin button, and I just want to touch it too, because like, man, so I kind of like told all these people that I was going to go build a Dero BTC swap, and I'm actually starting to shake in my boots a little bit about it. I'm kind of actually scared. One, because like Bitcoin is its own kind of monster, and like working with it, it's slow. It's really slow, and it's not very sexy in terms of like. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with Bitcoin because it's been developed for so long, but from like just trying to build like the swap thing, I'm like getting nervous to even interact with Bitcoin because of the transparency. My privacy concern for it over the last, like, I don't know, 3 weeks has just kept mounting and mounting and mounting. And they did all these Bitcoin conferences, and maybe you guys have seen those. I don't know if you have. And I look at them, and these guys are so excited about the money, but none of them run a freaking node. And maybe some of them do, but I'm pretty sure that they're not like using that node. They're just like, oh yeah, I just have a copy of the blockchain. I don't know. I feel like you're right, Asylum. Like they're really only focused on the money.
Well, another thing, touching on that, not only are they excited about the money, but a lot of the times they get excited about the transparency and how great it is to have transparency. And then you'll also see people that are so happy that it's private. And to me, that just blows my mind that it's still so misunderstood. And and another thing too, Bitcoin's not slow, you're just spoiled.
Yeah. So, because I mean, like when you really come down to payment processing systems, yeah, like at the time, the 10-minute block time is like really fast. And then you go and do like some shady stuff like Lightning and make it faster, super shady. But Dero has definitely spoiled me, like 100%. And it makes me mad. It makes me mad that there's something that this good that I can actually use and it's fast enough that my customers don't complain. I love that. So thanks, Cap.
In burying all that under like I was saying, more and more layers of trusted UI development. You just create like a whole cultural bubble that has no clue what it's talking about, and I'm not sure that's the solution to anything. And maybe perhaps, injecting a culture of getting closer to the code on the user level on a broad scale is actually a part of a cultural movement that we should be encouraging. I really believe that. And I'm willing to debate that with anybody, by the way.
When I first got the Bitcoin, I used a GUI wallet, and then I tried a CLI wallet because I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, this isn't that hard to use. And then when I found Zero and it was just the CLI wallet, and I started using it, and then Captain built that just like a menu-based system for it. I was like, this is like the easiest CLI I've ever used in my life. I don't know why anybody would complain about this, but of course there was complaints. But anybody I've ever shown Zero to, like for example, family members, I was like, okay, make them a wallet, open up the CLI, show them what the numbers and the things mean, and then I would send them a transaction, and they would see how fast it went, and they would see it show up on their side, and every time, mind blown. Like fancy UIs are cool and everything, but when you see it working on a CLI level, there's something magical about that. I think that, everyone's been touching on, but there is something kind of cool about that.
Yeah, like here's a question: if you're onboarding a person that has no clue how blockchain works, what is the benefit that you think you're giving this person? What is the benefit of using the blockchain in the first place? Because they're still trusting everybody else. They're literally gaining no benefit by being onboarded and having no understanding and just seeing sexy, flashy pictures. Like it's not improving their life in any way because they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand how they're using what they're using. They don't understand how it affects multiple areas of their lives. And if you go and you hide all the pathways that could teach them those things behind a sexy UI, they're literally never going to learn it, ever. So they won't truly be integrating the benefits of a network like Zero into their lives. They'll just be playing with numbers and dollars.
And there's a second order effect to that, right? So you deploy this GUI wallet that's super sexy too fast. And that means that what developers first encounter from the project is a sexy UI and not the wallet. And so they don't even get the opportunity to play or explore it because they've encountered the GUI wallet that's literally handicapped them, because that's all they think of when they think of.
Yeah, you've incentivized ignorance.
Exactly. That's so crazy.
Today's Bitcoin users, I mean, aside from money, one of the problems, I mean, one of the real issues is this lack of understanding that, for example, many don't even know whether they have their coins or Coinbase is holding them or Binance is holding them. So, of course, when you want to onboard the masses, okay, for a statistical, intelligence distribution curve and stuff, you have at some point to appeal to onboard everyone. You have some trade-offs to make, right? Because otherwise you want to reach mass adoption. So I think it would be even interesting to see in Zero, what kind of UIs and what trade-off we will have to make, like in terms of privacy as UI improves, like how will this technology, maintain its robustness of privacy as it exists inside devices better, or in the App Store or on Android, etc., and so forth. So, I think at some point, some trade-offs will have to be made even on Zero.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to just touch on that because I'm already doing that. And like, I feel not terrible, right? Like, I accept a position where I want to be trusted by my community members. I actually don't try to breed trustlessness. But I think that the platform that we're using should be trustless. And I think that, and Zero is that. But like with the secret Discord server, when people encode addresses, like my server that runs the bot has to process that request. That means that there's somebody on some level that's in between that. I would prefer that there was software that I could just give you that you would use. But for now, I make a concession for the mass adoption argument to expedite teaching people these things so that we can move forward with Zero adoption. So that's a good point. Tip.
And you're also transparent about that too, and you keep it in the front of dialogue, educating people on the degrees of trust in the processes that they're using. I mean, these are all things that we all trust people. All of us do. Every human on earth has to trust somebody. If they don't, they'll die in one way or another. But the important thing is fostering the culture of dialogue that keeps all of this stuff in the front, so that people can start learning how humans actually function on an individual level from a first person perspective. And that is something that this extended period of command line interfaces has really done for a lot more people in the Zero space than any other project I've ever seen, to be honest, including Bitcoin.
Yeah, teaching people how to use the CLI on Mac, Windows, and Linux over the years. Even people that didn't even know how to open up command line on their computer and walking them through it over Telegram in a few cases. It was kind of eye-opening because in certain situations I was like, okay, maybe this person's just trying to give everybody a hard time, and then I talk to them for a little bit and walk them through it. And then once they actually get it open and they start using it, they're like, hey, that's cool. I didn't even know I could do that. It also instills a little bit of confidence in people that maybe you're not as tech unsavvy as you think you are. Maybe you can do this, right?
And when they discover that, they open up a million doors of potential that they're going to walk through and learn more things that they wouldn't have otherwise if that was all hidden.
Right, because everybody can double click. Right, I would think most people could double click.
I mean, this is true because basically in the beginning it seemed impossible to me to learn these things. How to run a node, how to put on the RPC node, how to mine. And now I could basically teach this to anyone because now that I have learned it and I have zero technical background, I realize that it's not really that difficult. that I can teach it even to my girlfriend or to whoever I want. If I want, they had like half an hour to sit down. So this is cool, of course. And I think this is why in Dero, like having this barrier also serves like for all of us that using the CLI wallet, it's a way of validating the idea because we love the tech. That's why we keep using the CLI wallet. We keep spending all these hours, like even people like me, to try to learn, etc., and so on and so forth. But I think I still like those discussions about, or the work that certain members of the community do, like Joy Raptor, for example, those mock-ups and stuff, because it gives you a glimpse into the future of the potential of this thing.
Yeah, I would. Just one more thing about like learning how to use the command line in RPCs and stuff like that. If you learn it that way, then you can learn what you can do. If you use a GUI or something else that somebody else built on how to use the RPC for what they wanted to build, then you really just know how to use what somebody else made. But if you actually take the time to learn how to, extract the possibilities, it's a quote that I've used before, but it's just like one recognition of genius wins the whole circle round, or something like that. But basically, the more that individuals can do for themselves, the better it is for everyone.
In that relationship between individuals and the blockchain, at least the Dero blockchain, is, in my opinion, probably the most valuable cultural phenomenon that has happened so far in blockchain to date. That goes far beyond wealth and finance and money. Like, having the masses that are capable of understanding and doing these things themselves close to the code is probably the most important thing that's happened in crypto.
Yeah, and maybe it's not the masses, right? But it's at least a large mass of people that wouldn't have otherwise done it.
Well, the masses that have the potential to understand it.
Right. Yeah, it's a throwback to what crypto was supposed to be in a lot of ways. A lot of people always like dog on some of the ways that the Dero devs, like Captain, the way that they've approached a lot of these things. But if you really look at it, I think it's nostalgic for these devs to go back to the days of when people understood what they were doing, not just doing.
Yeah, and if you want to change the world, that needs to be your vision. Your vision can't just be hiding everything behind pretty pictures. If that's your vision combined with profiting up the work of other people, well, then you're just a sick person and you're just exploiting more shit.
However, there are UIs coming and they're nice looking. So, there will be a lot of more user-friendly stuff coming for everybody else to get into, obviously.
Yeah,
but
if you understand how to do everything yourself first before you go use something like that, well, then you're going to use it optimally, and it will have maximum impact on your life and improve your life in the way that it never would have been improved had you not have learned those things.
Well, and a lot of times it just comes down to I think what TechLeaks is saying is like you kind of have to take some time to show someone how it works, right? Like you have to show them the tools, you have to show them the tech. And where we live in a convenience culture, where dude, why don't I just swipe a card? That's what all the other cryptos do. I just swipe a card. And it's like, wait, you're just complying with the system more. And so sometimes that very conversation is really tricky. It's like my bro, love my bro. He is brilliant interior painter who's really, really, really good at it. And I was talking to him because he always is trying to find out what's a good thing to invest in, man. And I literally am the kind of person that says don't invest in Dero. I say that. like understand it first.
I think
before
we
you
all
do
say that.
anything. Yeah, and I think we all say that because it's really important to spend time. That's really more my message. Spend some time with Dero. Think about it.
Invest your effort and your time into it. Don't invest your money into it thinking that you're just going to moon rocket or something like that. You need to understand what you're doing. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just agreed so much I had to say something.
I'm so glad you did, because it just speaks to the reality that, like, we're not up here trying to tell you to buy Dero. That's not what we're here trying to do. We're not trying to like, we're going to take this to, I don't even know what the current flavor of the month. I'm always saying that we need to go lower, right? Because I want to be able to enjoy Dero at cheaper and cheaper prices so that I can share it with my friends at better and better rates. And so like my message is like really inverse, okay, in that way. And so like, I think that one of the things that's been really neat about Dero and trying to explain it to my family is that, like, there's really smart people on the internet that I'm talking to right now. They're really smart, and we're trying to solve a really difficult problem together. And that's really important. So I'm going to keep you up to date on that. And that's usually all I can really offer them, because like once you start getting, and I think we've heard that in spaces of it. Some people say like, privacy doesn't sell. No, it's kind of like insurance. You usually have to sell it from the negative. But I think when it comes to things like what Dero is, and like we have sexy UIs coming down the pipeline and stuff like that, people who are really investing the time and the effort of knowing what Dero is, they are excited about GUIs because then they can share the privacy that's offered by them. But what they get really, really excited about is the fundamental technology underneath. And I think everybody can agree with that.
Yeah,
you're all a bunch of nerds.
That's the freedom tech that's being mentioned. It's going to go down in the books with the likes of what IPFS and stuff. This is blueprint level stuff for the internet moving forward,
and society as a whole.
And on the note of spending time with the community, I wanted to just share that this week, some DApp founder, I just don't want to mention any names, but anyway, he was looking into building something on Dero, and that's exactly what I told him, because I think it's very important, this culture fit, to understand the culture of Dero, like, because here we are like some sort of, I would say, cryptography maximalists, right? So what I told him was to go first in their Discord and spend some time there to get to know the people, the philosophy, what they care about, and then think how you want to proceed. And then, because it's not just try to build something, migrate it, etc., but also I think it's very important in Dero to get to know the community, and because all these people care a lot about something and they are very smart, and it's very important to address that fundamental, those fundamental problems that we are trying to solve, and not do the usual cosmetic done, So that's why I think this is very important, to get to know the community and the values inside the community of what we all care about mostly.
Yeah, I think that the community in general is very utility based. And if you're going to make something, make it useful. I think that's the general idea that most people have. And it's probably why a lot of, I don't know, naysayers, I'll call them. Well, that's a lot of the problem that they have, is that, hey, I can't just build something on this and pump it to the moon and get everybody to get behind me, because that's just not, the culture is not there for it. At least, I would imagine in the future it's inevitable, but that's just not the way that the core community really views things. It's like, if you build something, show people what you built and show them how it's beneficial and how you can use it and why it should be there. I appreciate you giving that person the type of introduction you did, because it kind of it's kind of good for developers to know that you're not just gonna like jump on, make some random dApp, and then just say it's the newest thing, and everyone's gonna go to the moon, right? So it's a little bit different to get used to compared to a lot of other projects.
That's what makes things go to the moon. That's why it's kind of funny.
I'm not getting in a rocket. I'm staying right here on my porch. All right. Once again, Cryptoid has killed the conversation. You got something, Waldo?
Oh, no, I was actually just looking at the time and was going to ask if anybody else had anything. We may could do a wrap up right here.
Just one more reminder. No ZeroPoint module next week. People are going to be traveling for nonsensus. Keep your eye out for the nonsensus module, module 5. And we'll be resuming November 4th, I believe it is, that Saturday.
All right. And everybody that's getting ready for nonsensus, good luck with your last minute preparations. Hopefully none of you guys were putting it off to the very last minute. And thanks everybody for coming out. We look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.